Hello, hello, by the way. Does it work? Yes, it works. Okay, so right now I'm thinking that I can change the title of the server of like the server itself, the one that I use for meh. So far I'm going to cancel it and leave it like that. I was thinking of changing this Discord server's name because YouTube feedback and improvement, this was the old server. Who is this? It's TYTY, I think, right? Budzios Zenki. Have I sent it? Yes. Why am I always so sad? Well, not sad, so serious. I'm talking to Cloud about this same thing. Okay, I'm going to, let's say, talk/write about pool. I don't know, I just went to the pool. That was the first thing that I wanted to mention. And it was fine. I swam a lot. I actually swam, well, not a lot, like 15 minutes maybe, but I swam and I like it. I like how it kind of clears the mind, or it doesn't even clear it. It kind of activates it in a way. It's like walking. I start thinking about things and all that. Unlike walking, I can't take notes while I'm swimming, but that's also interesting, I guess. And sorry, I was thinking about some notes that I have on my Google Keep notes. So yeah, I swam, and swimming gets my brain thinking, or whatever, gets my brain thinking, and I guess that is kind of the introduction, or not introduction, but yeah, basically I swam for like 15 minutes. That gets my brain thinking and all that, and the thing I was thinking about, right, and the topic of today's video that I have called game design is making these kind of games. Hello, by the way, not sure when you came in, but this is a very good moment, I guess, because I am going to start talking about what the title of the video says, which is game design, right? And what kind of game design? I'm not sure if I'm not sure if you are still here or not. But yeah, I'm not sure if, I don't know, this is a difficult topic for me to talk about because, yeah, for reasons that will probably be evident, and I also don't want to get too deep into, I don't know, not things that could get me demonetized because I'm not making money, so I don't give a fuck about that really. It's more about, yeah, I don't know, sensitive topics or kind of things like that, right? But there is such a thing as, there is this genre of game that is kind of transformation game or something like this. And there are like several kinds of transformation, right? So for example, gender transformation, there is also like animal transformation, like magic transformation, or like size transformation. There are like a lot of these kind of things, and they are kind of sexual. Many of them have this kind of sexual, not even undertone, but like explicitly sexual purpose for a fetish or something like this, right? But not all of them are like that, and I think they explore interesting concepts, especially the gender ones, right? Even though those are also like sexualized and all that, I think that the core, not sure if mechanic, because the mechanics are pretty, well, it depends, but yeah, the mechanics are pretty sexualized and all this, but the games themselves are pretty interesting. Like, not like the philosophy, if you think about it, the underlying philosophy under these games is interesting. And that is what I was thinking about before. I was thinking I could make a game like this that is, I guess, that has more depth, I guess. Not that is not just so surface level depth in terms of like the very interesting proposal of the game, right? That doesn't just touch on it and have this underlying philosophy that is interesting, but that it doesn't touch on it, and it simply that becomes kind of the fire of the game, right? The fire of those games of kind of going from guy to girl in a game is that, I guess, the core allure of the game is that deep philosophical thing of like, can you go from boy to girl, or from man to woman, and like you can definitely cross your roles. What does it entail? Those kind of things, right? They are games that are discussing that deep philosophical topic in a sexual nature usually. So I thought of game design in those senses, right? It's like how, and I wrote Twine game because the games that I have seen are usually made in this kind of framework for game. The Twine framework is some kind of simple storytelling, storybook kind of game, maybe engine, you could say game engine, that is basically like HTML games, right? They are as an HTML file, and you can using links and all this, you can go to different passages, and you can make like choose your adventure type games. And I thought that was, and those are kind of the main type of games that I see. There are also visual novels and all this, but I think that for my scope, the best choice of games like these are probably something like this, right? Some kind of game that is very written, like writing based, rather than to choosing a game that could be more dependent on like images or art in a in this kind of game sense. In this kind of game sense, yeah. For example, like, I don't know, drawings in case of a visual novel, or like assets in case if it was like a more 3D game, or that kind of thing, right? In a Twine game, in an HTML game, there are some art assets, but you can get away with stealing those assets from other places, and like there many of those games like use assets directly from like pornography or things like this, right? Because they are very sexual games. But outside of this, there are other games that make their own things, right? Their own art assets. And with AI now, for games that are like sexually themed, it's probably harder. But for like basic assets, like to generate a town or to generate some images, that kind of thing, some background, like mood setting images, more like, I feel like that is better. So this is like a good enough framework. It allows for some art, for some mood setting, for blah blah blah, but you don't need great investment. So yeah. Long time no see. Hello Tevel. Long time no see indeed, because I don't remember you. Sorry. Okay. Showing my website, list of unfinished business. Man having hung here really makes church more lively than before. Yeah. Hi. Had quite a hard week. Good luck, mate. Let's see. Applying to job. I'm trying to see if you have said where you're from and all this. Voicing over the 4th in the week. Have you changed your name? I'm in university and currently live in Vietnam. Oh, you're the Vietnamese guy. Where was your name always Tevel? I just turned 18 a few months ago. Okay, yeah, you talked a bit about your mom. How are you doing, by the way? Yes, I changed my name. Okay, that explains it. I forgot your old name, but that's okay. Yeah, I was talking about game design. Well, not game design in this. I'm not sure where in my little speech did you come into, but basically to sum up, I have been thinking lately. With lately, I mean today, when I was just swimming in the pool, but it's also like a wider lately. So for example, let's say like maybe since COVID, for example, like since 2020, these 4 years, this has been a topic in my mind, in the back of my mind, or more in the back or in the forefront, depending on the time. But it has always been a topic in my mind, and it is kind of this Twine HTML transformation games. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this, and it is a bit of a sensitive topic, and also a sensitive topic for me personally, but also in general, because they are games like at least the variant that I have been more exposed to, let's say, is, are you going to make a game? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm thinking of it, right? I'm not sure if I'm going to make it or not, but if I were to start to make it, I would at least want to have like a good, I don't know, to have a good sense that I can bring something to the table, right? If it's a bad idea or something like that, I'm not that interested in pursuing, like taking that time to make something that niche. But yeah, if it's something that is at least like a way of expressing myself or something like this, then even if it's niche or something, I would say, okay, I have something to bring to the table. Right? I'm reading this book called The Creative Act, and yeah, it is kind of about art, you could say, right? It's about making art and all this. And games are art, in my opinion. Even if it's a shitty HTML game, it is art. So if it's expressing something, it's interesting. And that is what I was saying. That is what I was explaining, right? I was talking about this genre of games, which are basically like on the surface. Let me explain. They are called transformation games, right? So the topic of the game, right, is that something gets transformed into another thing, and that is kind of, and they are usually like sexually related, right? So it's kind of a fetish, right? There is some people who have this fetish of transformating from one thing to another, from like a human to an animal, or from a small size to a big size, or transforming from male to female, or this kind of thing, right? So there are these genre of games, but I'm drawn to them and all this, and I think that they are interesting because the underlying philosophy of them is kind of interesting, right? They are kind of touching into some point that is interesting philosophically, and that is, I don't know, it moves people. That is what art is for, right? To explore these kind of topics. And in this particular case, right, the gender transformation game, so changing from male to female and this kind of thing, it's a very on top, like it's a very politicized topic and all that, right? But like these games that exist for this do it in a very surface level way, right? They are games that basically do it for horny purposes, right? And even use like a lot of pornography in the game itself. But I feel like the philosophy of the games, underlying philosophy, like how do you change from, like, what does it mean to change from like male to female, right? In these games, what does it mean? It means something sexual, probably, right? But there is so much more to that. So I feel like there could be a game, like there is a space in the world for a game that explores that same thing, that same topic, with more depth, right? And the thing is that I don't think necessarily that the games that exist currently are wrong or anything like this, right? Not necessarily, right? It's like, it's probably good that they exist or whatever, but, and the thing is that they are taboo and all this because they are covering like sexual topics which are like taboo. So they are doing a good job in exploring that in a sense. But I feel like there could be more advancement, right? That seems like a fun project to do and hard, and I'm confused. I don't know. I don't want to underestimate the project, but I don't want to say that it's like hard, right? It's not hard in the sense, like for example, I saw this game yesterday, YouTube. This game. I made a difficult game about climbing.
Getting over it with market. And here's how it works.
This type of game, right, is harder. Right? It requires dealing with an advanced engine, with like Unreal Engine or like with Unity. You need to know like programming, think a lot of cases, that kind of thing, right? Meanwhile, the game I'm thinking about is mostly thinking of the story of the game, right? And then maybe the polishing process is always it always takes a long time and all this, but it's mostly how to present the game in a way, in a textile way or whatever, and that kind of thing, right? So it's less of a, I don't know, less of an intimidating task for me, you could say, right? If I had to learn
your
this
mouse
kind of
movement,
thing, I would say, fuck, this looks difficult, right? But since it's mostly thinking of a story and thinking of a way in which this medium helps the story, right? So that was what I was kind of drawn to, right? The point of it being a game instead of like a YouTube video or a book or something like this is that it's interactive, right? So your choices, in a way, affect the outcome. That is the point of a game, right? That your choices or that your interactiveness affects the outcome. That is kind of the gist of a game. So it is interesting that your actions could lead to that, or how, I don't know, or like maybe the point of a game is kind of immersion, right? So to kind of empathize with that perspective of the person who changes from one gender to another, like what has to happen, or like what is the felt, blah blah blah, right? You more or less get what I mean, right? So a dialogue kind of game, yes, you could say, basically. Let's look it up, for example. Twine game.
If you clicked on this video, you're either ecstatic that someone is finally talking about Twine, or you're asking yourself, what the heck is a Twine game? If you're part of the latter group and want to know how to make games with no programming knowledge, then you're in the right place. HTML5 and JavaScript. You don't have from existing nodes. Now, they were pretty bad. My first game was about a professional frisbee golfer who's playing Crash Land.
This game, for example, yes, it's basically text, some quotes, blah blah blah, right? Begin. There is some images, but it's basically dialogue. Basically, the point of the game is that you are reading things, but there are some interactive things, right? There are some choices, probably. Yes, at some point there are some choices. And for example, I have not played this game, but this game is about depression, right? So I'm already sensing that you have one option that is blacked out. It's presented as if you could choose it, but you can't. But you can choose other things. So I'm assuming that the game, as the game progresses, you will become more and more depressed, and your choices will narrow down to just one thing, right? That is kind of what I sense the game is going to do. And if you are not sensing that, or if you're new to the medium or something like that, or even if you know it but you're interested in the topic, it's like this way of playing the game makes you more empathetic to the topic of the game, right? So this depression, right? It's like, okay, it's like, oh, fuck, why can't I choose that? I would like to choose that, but I can't. Exactly, right? That is the point of depression. So the medium of the game, aka using links, choices, etc., is a good way of telling this story. And that's what I think can happen with these transformation games, right? And if, for example, this game has these status things, right? You have as status, you are not seeing a therapist. You are not taking medication. You are depressed, right? So interaction is exhausting, blah, blah, blah. So there is probably like some exhaustion meter somewhere, that kind of thing, right? That limits what you can do, and there are things that you can do to make your exhaustion better so you can get to the end of the game and all this. Not many people like reading a wall of text. Yeah, that is true, but also, who cares, right? Who cares that not many people want to read it? It's like, if some people want to read it, that's enough, right? But the idea is quite good. Yeah, I have more concrete ideas, but I wanted to make this video more in general, right? More about trying also to like ask the audience, try to ask you, for example. It's like, how would you show in one of these games, right? For example, this is a Twine game. Now you know how a Twine game looks. As you call it, it's a wall of text, right? Because something has to tell you what's going on. Then there are some links. That's essentially what a Twine game is. It's images, links. Some links take you to explanation, to more walls of text, and some links are choices that affect what you can do. And there are also like some status counters. There are some kind of variables and this kind of thing. There are some like states that you can change. For example, you can change from state depressed to state not depressed in this game, or you can change state seeing therapist to not seeing therapist. There is, for example, money. For example, in some games, there are things like this, right? You should write them down before you forget. I have written them down. Don't worry. The ideas that I have, I've written them down. I've written them down. But yeah, what I wanted to, I guess, not find out in the stream, but at least like have a chat with the audience. In this case, of 1 or 2 people. I don't know. 1, I think. It's like, what do you think about it? Right? It's like, how would you show in a Twine game, so in this format of game, right, in text, but also in the mechanics of choosing, right? Or in some mechanics that are, I don't know, or thinking of these game mechanics, because, for example, choosing is one mechanic, but another mechanic is, for example, this state of seeing a therapist versus not seeing a therapist, or counters. There are counters, right? So, for example, energy or money or I don't know, friendship level. For example, there is a character and you can have a higher friendship level, and once you get to level 10, I don't know, that character can give you gifts or whatever, right? There are many things that can happen. So it's like, how could you show in a Twine game sense what this change entails, right? Going from man to woman. It's like, that is, like, do you have any ideas or what comes to mind when I pose this question, right? And also, like, in presentation, for example, one way these games do it is that, for example, when you are a boy, your text shows up as blue, right? There is like a blue text dialogue and like a manly avatar. And then when you turn into a girl, it's like the text turns pink and there is like a girl avatar, right? Or like a feminine avatar or something like this, right? Choice matter is cool. I read fictions before and maybe some kind of kinky stuff and can find your idea interesting. Yeah, like the idea is not mine, right? Some people have already had it. I'm trying to like improve on the idea, right? To see more things on like what can be done. It's like, how can you show via text and via, yeah, I guess this graphic way, what is going on in the mind of a person like this, right? It's like, and this is like very philosophical, right? It's like, what does it mean to be a woman or to be a man, right? In this sense, right? If you accept the premise that you can change from one to the other, in these games usually it's very sexualized, right? So one way is that when you are a man, it's like you are attempting to have like sex with women and all this, and when you are a woman, it's like the opposite, right? But that is a very basic kind of like a very basic premise, right? It's like very, I don't know, I don't want to say politically incorrect or anything like this, but it is played out, right? It's like what everyone does in these kind of games, right? And as you said, it is kind of very kinky, right? Some M2F folks would like that. Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe I don't know if they would like it. Maybe they wouldn't, right? Maybe. I don't know. You have made me okay. Good idea. For example, it's like, what would an M2F person think? Like, I don't have anyone to ask right now, but I would imagine that some people like that have transitioned would say something like, okay, I have always felt like a girl inside or something, but the outside didn't match, right? So, like, the way that you show it in the game is by showing the outside, right? It's like you show the change outside, which is what some games do, right? Some games show, like, have like this kind of small avatar and have like a little person that turns from a boy to a girl. And some games already do this, right? So if someone is like, oh, I have always been a girl inside or whatever, it's like, first you feel bad because your inside doesn't match your outside or whatever, right? Inside doesn't match outside. The solution is like paper doll. It's called paper doll. Like this visual representation of how it looks physically, how the person looks physically. But what I found interesting, right? The premise that I found interesting was that these games actually don't, like, many of these games are not like this, right? Many of these games are kind of like, and there is like actually this, as you said, this kinky stuff or something that is like literally forced, right? So there is some guy that is normal or whatever and gets forced into becoming a girl, right? So there are games that are like that. So there are games that don't follow that premise, which I would assume some of these people wouldn't like, or some would like. I don't know. I would call that an interactive fiction more than a game. I would agree, but for example, this one, like this one in the left, I would call this one probably, I don't know, it depends, right? For example, because here you can see that you are not, like, what differentiates an interactive fiction with a game is that in an interactive fiction, in my opinion, like, the story is already made and you just have to choose, right? Here, there are game mechanics, right? So, for example, there is a game mechanic in this game that is see a therapist, right? So there must be an option for you to get a therapist, right? There are actions you can take in the game that get you a therapist and actions you can take that do not get you a therapist, right? And it is kind of a state. So maybe then the therapist drops you, or maybe you forget to go and you are not seeing it, something like this, right? So it is not like a choice that breaks up some kind of like tree of choices, right? It's more of a state that influences certain things that maybe is the door to opening up some of those things, but you have to have that key. So in that sense, that becomes a game, right? It becomes a game. It's not just interactive fiction, right? It's not like do you remember these YouTube videos where you could choose your own adventure, right? Or books that are simply, there are books that are simply choose your own adventure, right? This is not exactly that, because it's not like each part is that telegraphed, right? There are kind of a puzzle element, right? You have to find the key to advance. That is at least my perspective on why this isn't like an interactive fiction. I don't know. That is my perspective. Yo, how's it going? Today I'm talking about game design, by the way. Not sure when you joined, I think maybe just now. If you joined just now, I'm talking about game design in the context of, it's a bit of a sensitive topic, but on the topic of like transformation games. And in transformation games, like there are a lot of types of transformation, like from an animal to a human, from like small to big, these kind of games that are, and the particular focus of this one, which is like gender transformation games, right? I still don't understand, but I look forward to your idea. I mean, if I release it, like I won't release it under my name probably, but good, I guess. Still don't know if I have to go to work tomorrow, but I don't want to ask, since if I ask, you will probably say yes. Lol. Keep not asking, I guess. Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I wanted like your input, the input of the chat on this, because that is what I was thinking. Like the chronology of today was that I went to the pool, I had a swim and all this, and the swim gets my brain thinking, right? And the topic I was thinking about, right? I usually don't talk about these topics on stream because they are a little bit sensitive, and I don't know. It feels a little bit strange to talk about this, but it's what I was thinking about while swimming. So I was like, fuck it. It is going to be the topic for today's stream. And I think game design is like, it's always like an interesting topic. So this counts as game design, even if it's a bit of a sensitive game, right? Because many of these games are kind of sexualist, right? Like the transformation aspect from going from male to female is like from going as a male to from having sex like a man, like a straight man, to going transforming into a girl and having sex as a straight girl, you could say, right? So that is kind of the scope of many of these games. Yeah, but I wanted to drink some beers today, actually yesterday, but since I don't know if I had to work today, I didn't drink, so today I am in the same situation, lol. Beers just at home or with friends. And yeah, back to the game. I don't know, or not. I forgot what I was going to for. Okay, yeah. Basically, that I was interested in these games, right? Because even though they are like sexualized and all of these, right? And that is a sensitive topic for this stream, and I guess not appropriate or whatever. Even though it's my stream and I could talk about whatever the fuck I wanted, to be honest. But I don't know, it's not something I feel comfortable talking about either, right? But I do think that the underlying philosophy behind the games is interesting, right? Like the philosophy of going from being a man, a male, a guy, to a girl, a woman, a female, or whatever, right? This transformation is interesting, philosophically, right? And it's like an interesting topic for a game, right? I know you are not supposed to drink alone, but they can't tell me what to do. I'm a bit confused what you are talking about with games that switch genders of things. Yeah, I was talking. Yeah, there is this genre of games that is called transformation games, right? And there are like several categories of this transformation, and like most of these games, like at least the ones that have caught my radar, have been this kind of transformation game in this kind of very sexual setting, right? So like furry type things for animals, right? So it's like you get transformed into an animal, into a furry or whatever, and sexual things happen. Basically, like that is the point of the game. It's like sexual gratification and all this. And there are also games like this for many other fetishes of transformation, right? So from going from a normal sized person to go to a very small person or to a big person. I don't know. I haven't played a ton of these games, to be honest, but I know that they exist. And there are also games like this for gender, right? So games where you start as a man and you become a woman, right? But the point is that these games, right, are very sexualized, right? So the way they work is that the man becomes the woman basically sexually, right? So it's like when you start having sex like a woman, you are more or less feminized or whatever, right? Converted into a woman, that kind of thing, right? Or that the purpose of you converting into a woman is to turn you into some kind of sexual object. So basically, right? So I was thinking, okay, the concept of the game, like the underlying philosophy of the game is interesting because it does imply that it is possible, right? That you can do it. I really don't know what kind of porn games you are talking about. I don't know. Just believe me, they exist, right? And there are like not all of them are like porn games, right? There are like some games that are simply kind of, you could say NSFW maybe, but they are just text, or maybe some of these games are not even like NSFW and are just kind of stories or something like this, right? But there are definitely porn games, right? And yeah, as Tevel says, see, he said before, if you are aiming for like people with imaginations, then sure. But I like some realistic element. Like there are some games, like in this genre, there is a big spectrum of games. Right? There is kind of the genre of, well, the trope of like magic, right? There are a lot of like magical settings. So for example, I don't know, you are living in like the Middle Ages in this kind of fantasy setting, kind of Lord of the Rings type shit, where there are like magicians and there are like wizards, like this Lord of the Rings, World of Warcraft, Dungeons and Dragons type universe, where there are these kind of things, right? So there are like potions that you can take to become a girl, or there is a spell that makes you whatever, right? Then there are also like less magical or whatever, but like there is like a pill that you take and you turn into, or there is like a machine that works like that. Like there are some, and there are others that are more like realistic, like you go through an actual realistic transformation or something like this, right? I think you can drink, but not to the point of hangover. I've seen people having a bad hangover, and that's a burden for me when I'm working with them. I had a few blackout hangovers where I told myself I will never drink again, but after sometimes you still go back to it, since if you don't overdrink, you can have a really good time. What the first thing people would do when turning to the opposite gender? Me, panic. I probably wouldn't mind, lol. I wouldn't like to suddenly have a period, but other than that, I think I would be fine with it. Yeah, that's interesting, right? Yeah, those are like, yeah, that's interesting input, I would say, right? And for example, like some of these games turn into those tropes, right? So for example, some of these games are like the way they express in the text how it goes is like you take the pill and or it's like you take the wrong pill. It's like, for example, I don't know, I'm inventing this, but have in mind that there is probably a game that is very similar to this or something like this, right? It's like you are trying to become, I don't know, you are in some future dystopian setting and you have to take a pill to become, I don't know, to be stronger and to beat your opponent in, I don't know, in a duel or whatever the fuck, right? It's like, and you take the wrong pill. And it's like the next morning you have your test for the state to become, for example, a firefighter test or whatever. Imagine one of those tests, but to become like a member of the party or whatever, right? And you take the pill and so, fuck, you're a woman. It's like, so what happens? Panic, right? Oh no, I'm panicking. I'm going to fail the whatever, right? It certainly would be an interesting experience to know what women feel. So afterwards, you can understand them better. Yeah. In this case, I was thinking more like the transition process, right? It's like, how would you explain the transition process itself, right? So going from a man to a woman, right? Like that period in between. That is kind of what I was thinking about, right? It's like, how would you show it in a game like this, right? Like what you can see on the screen, which is a game that is basically text. Maybe there are a couple of images. You can do some things with the text. You can maybe black it out. You can make it bigger. You can make it smaller. You can change the color, basically. And some links, right? And some states. For example, you can have the state of seeing a therapist, not seeing a therapist. It's like you could assume that there would be a man-woman state. It's like you are a man, but you're a woman. But if we start to think about it in like transition processes, it's like, wouldn't it make more sense to have like characteristics? It's like, well, to have like a spectrum or like a line, for example, where it's like, when you go outside, people think you are a girl, or when you go outside, people are confused, or when you are outside, people think blah blah, right? This kind of thing, right? Or how it feels from inside. It's like, from the inside, you think, I don't know. The pole turned into a hole. Yeah, that could be also another state, right? It's like another state. It's like you have a pole, or another state, you have a hole. Could there be something in the middle? It's like, probably not, right? Maybe it's like the pole is maybe as smaller than before because, I don't know, because this kind of, I don't know, you take some pills and the pills make it a little bit smaller or something like this. I don't know. But yeah, that is something to think about, right? I am someone who often wants what he can't have. When I was younger, I wanted to have a hangover to know the feel. Now I don't. I also wanted to know what it's like to have hiccups. When I was younger, I wanted to drive. That was the thing I wanted the most, to drive. And now that I can drive, I don't drive that often, to be honest. Ever heard of Futanari or Dick Girls? Lol. I guess that's that state in the middle. Yeah, I guess. That could be also like another thing, right? It's like when... Yeah, that is I guess, like a global... Like, how to turn that into a game, for example, right? In the game state, it's like, outside, you look like a girl, blah, 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 right? But there is a pole, right? And like that is relevant how, right? It's like, how is that relevant? Or like, when is that relevant? Because when these games are sexual, right, it's obviously very relevant. But if I'm trying to go like, if I'm trying to make a game that it's a little bit deeper, right, I would also like to know, it's like, what is the, I guess, internal experience of, like, it's like, how do you translate that into the text so that it reflects what's going on there, right? It's like, okay, you are happy or not with the pole, right? It's like, you are happy with the rest but not the pole, or you are happy with the whole combination. Like, what's happening inside, right? Futanari are weirdly huge. That is true, lol. I mean, in anime and all of this, there's probably like a lot of types. I don't know, but yeah, probably. I don't know. I've seen some pictures that are like, I don't know, that are like literally doing something like this. So yeah, it's like this. But what is this conversation becoming? Yeah, I don't know. It's I think these are like interesting things, but I do want to bring them back to like how it is relevant to the game's purposes, right? I do want to bring it back there, but it is interesting, right? Because it is a thing, right? Like it is a state that could happen in the game, right? In the game, you could, I don't know, grow tits or whatever, or put them on. But in my mind, like the purpose of the game and the reason the games exist is like to show that kind of transition, how it is, right? I don't know. I don't want to call it something like the transition game or something like this, right? Because it's not necessarily like that, but an element of it. It's like it feels important to share that more, like a level deeper than just the sexualization that I see in many games, right? In many games, actually, in many games, like the Futanari that you mentioned or whatever, are kind of other characters and they like exist just to like fuck you basically, and that kind of thing, or to like dominate, because if they have a dick, it's like they dominate or something like this, right? From game to beer and from gender to hentai tags. I mean, it is related, right? It's like it is a state in the process. If you conceive of it as a process where the beginning is a certain form, a certain body, male body, and the end is female body, it is a state in the middle. If you conceive of it that way, maybe that is the end state, or maybe it's like, I don't know. Let's see. Also, I'm assuming that we start here because, I don't know, because of personal bias, you could say, right? Because I am starting here, but I could start you could make a game that starts the other way, right? It's like if you conceive the game like this, you could conceive of it like, forgive me for the crass interpretation, but you get it, right? But that's not necessarily true, right? It could be a game where you get given these choices, right? Or where your actions take you here or there. And my point would be something like, okay, which actions take you there? And more than the actions themselves, like, because the actions is like obvious, like the action that takes you here is pretty, well, not here, but it's like surgery. There is only one way to do it realistically, right? It's like which. I mean, I used to fantasize about being turned into a female. I don't quite see how to make this an interesting game that is not 18 plus. I mean, the idea that I had for the game was 18 plus, but I also think that it could be an interesting game not 18 plus. What do you mean you put action into it? If you don't mind me asking. I'm also curious as well. Go to the gym. Take testosterone pills or something. Inject anabolizing trembolone or something like that. I took spironolactone for like a few months. What's that? That's like a blocker, right? It affects my body quite bad in a way. Anti-androgenic. It affected my body quite bad in a way, kind of. How? It is also used to treat high arterial pressure, so maybe it gave you too low arterial pressure or something like this. I now have some small breast, not really visible. It had more effect than just that. Why did you take it in the first place? Was it because of the took action that you mentioned? Spironolactone, Vietnam. Bro. I don't know why I'm looking for it in Vietnam, to be honest. I don't know what extra information it's going to give me. Okay, here there is like some uses. Adult CHF, nephrotic syndrome, liver cirrhosis, cancerous disease, primary aldosteronism, treatment of primary aldosteronism, CHF. What is that? CHF. Congenital heart failure or something like this. You can try with finding it with the word transgender. Yeah, I have heard of it. The ugly truth behind Speedo. Wait, so were you prescribed just spironolactone? Because as far as I understand it, that is like the androgen blocker. So you have to take, aside from spironolactone, estrogen. Like an estrogen or something like this. Prevents facial hair. Occasionally, upper body. Yeah, I quite scared after I read the side effects in more detail, after I almost passed out in PE class. In the UK, endocrinologists usually prescribe GnRH antagonist. It can often have serious side effects. GnRH agonists are considered to have a very good side effect profile. Interesting. Warning, taking anti-androgens without also taking another sex hormone, aka estrogen or testosterone. Yeah, that was what I understood. That you had to take it with estrogen to prevent some things. Damn, I almost passed out in PE, but after that I just got a notice from my doc that I couldn't go to PE while taking the meds. Oh. Wait, so are you were you diagnosed as transgender or something like this? I mean, that is pretty relevant to the game, I guess, right? The internal experience of like, what did you go through, like what happened and all that, right? Nope, I can only have access to spironolactone. Huh, interesting. There was like, let's see, 830 that DY or something like this. Charity DIY. Yeah, this is usually accomplished using anti-androgens and estradiol. Dosing. Anti-androgen plus estradiol. Cyproterone acetate, I think that's common here in here. Injection monotherapy. And monotherapy is usually with just the feminization hormone. Yeah, apparently it's also not recommended as a first choice of anti-androgen. But yeah, self-medicate is dangerous. Yeah, this is just the information to know the options, because it's very clearly laid out. Yeah, when you Google a medication, you will probably see a massive list of side effects. In the context of anti-androgens, most of these effects are actually just side effects of sex hormone deprivation seen in cis men who take anti-androgens without an estrogen for the treatment of prostate cancer. You will not see, no. Yeah, so when you just lower the anti-androgens, you get more side effects because you are not pumping up like the other feminizing hormone or something. I don't know, I'm not an endocrine, obviously. They don't offer that in Vietnam, so I had to find some other way around it. Interesting. But hey, thanks to the past me with dumb decisions, I now have quite good knowledge in pharmacy and anatomy. Lol. Okay. I'm going to paste the invitation to this Discord here in the chat. Oops. I have more questions about this, so if you join this Discord and so I can add you on Discord, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure if you have it, but if you don't, that's fine. I'm interested in this, and I'm going to close the stream in like 10 minutes or something like this. Yeah, because obviously, like for the game, no, not just for the game, just in curiosity in general, but also for the game, it's like it's useful to know like what were you going through and like what do you feel now. Yeah, because for example, another option is like you just. I thought that another way the game could be interesting, right, was if you just are happy with that, right? It's like you go through the game, like the game poses the challenges or whatever. There is like an exploration component or something like this, and at the end of the day, it's like you still remain like a guy or whatever, right? Because of whatever reasons. So I thought that was also interesting. And the part of I was interested about was like, how do you show like this change in the game, or I guess this lack of change, or like how do you contrast in the same game? Like how does one person internally go from this state to up? Like how do you go from here to here, or from here to here, or from here to here? I don't feel comfortable with chatting with voice. Yeah, I don't mean voice. I mean just like writing. My account is just Coscore Thrift, but yeah, that's interesting, right? I never asked why did you call yourself Mr. Beast fan. I don't know. Because I liked Mr. Beast, I guess. Because I had a video, like my most video in the channel is by Mr. Beast. So I was like, oh, damn. I don't know. I made that video because I liked what he said in this video. Like, well, not what he said in this video exactly. In that video, he tells like the story of how he met some people and worked very hard, but with a community of like people who were also into YouTube and who were like obsessed with growing on YouTube, and all of them kind of got very huge. And I posted that clip. And yeah, I've also seen like a lot of podcasts with Mr. Beast where he talks about like YouTube and all that. and I like his philosophy and how he did it. Right? I like it. The videos themselves are are somewhat interesting. I don't watch all of them, but when I watch them, I'm like, that was interesting. But they're not like my favorite thing. But when he talks on a podcast or something, I listen to that and I'm like, oh, holy shit. Right? Like those are like holy shit moments. Like, holy shit, this guy is like doing some shit. I didn't see the message, by the way. It's deleted. I'm not sure if I can see it or anything or something. If it was a link, just say it was a link or something. I don't know. I think if it's a link, I don't see it. Like it gets removed or something. Yeah, that's basically it. On the Mr. Beast thing, that's basically it. I liked him on podcasts. I like his way of working and I don't know, his vision, you could say, right? Transition is scary for me, so I haven't doing again. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. That could be a reason, right? I guess. Fear. I mean, it's not kind of. How do you say? Like empty fear or whatever. It's like fear that makes sense, right? If there are like real consequences on your body and all that that are bad, it makes sense to fear them, right? I mean, for the plot of a game, it's less satisfying in this kind of adventure journey way, but like it is a realistic outcome. Like your pawn just went limp, and no matter how much you tried, there's no other pole. Yeah, I get. I would like to start taking antidepressant thingies again since I just stopped taking them. Now I feel like I'm back at square one. But first I have to find a new therapist and stuff. Did you pay for your therapist, like in Germany? Not easy in Berlin or any place at the moment, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to Leipzig or something, right? I thought I was going to Leipzig. I don't know anymore because I'm not getting news from my friend. But I thought I was going to, and I was looking at therapists in Leipzig to see like what was the thing, and a friend, not a friend, sorry. I saw that like good reviews of one. I checked that therapist's webpage, like the wait list was like literally 9 months or something like this. Like the closest appointment you could get with the therapist was in like November or something like this. You seem like in a lot of mess. You mean him or me? I mean, I was younger, so if I had to pay something, my mom did so. So I don't know. So you ended after you were 18, I guess. Sorry, before you were 18. A while ago then, like 8 years ago or something like this, right? At this point, therapists don't even put you on a waiting list anymore since they are way too full. Dumb. Both of you are a mess. Get some help. That's what we are trying, I guess. I mean, I didn't try, but he tried and it didn't work. Well, no, it didn't work, but he can't. So I'm not even going to try, basically. I am trying, bro. It's not working. Okay. I think I'm going to close stream for today. Tomorrow, I don't know what I will do. I think I will probably keep thinking about this game thing and these game mechanics. Hopefully by tomorrow, I have more concrete things to think about rather than this just baked thing. But maybe it will still be this big and like it will still be the same thing, right? Now sad. Now this chat is just group therapy. I mean, sad that it has to be this way, but also in a way it's not that sad, right? It's good. I currently have someone that visits me once a week and she's trying to find me a therapist currently, but even she can't right now. It's hard at the moment. Oxygen. Get better, you all. Please get better. Okay. By the way, if you want to add me on Discord, my Discord is this. Costco Rift. I'm literally going to ask you basically the same, like, I want to know more details about your timeline and what happened and all that. And how are you feeling about it and all this. I'm curious about it. If you don't want to, don't worry. And not by voice, by like text. But yeah, you can find me inside the link above, or you can just add me as a friend in that and I will see it. And yeah. So yeah, open invitation to contact me for those purposes or just for whatever in general. But yeah. Also, like, how is it in Vietnam? I'm also curious about it, specifically in Vietnam. Because also Vietnam has Thailand just to the left, right? And Thailand, for example, just passed the gay law and all that, and there is like a big transgender community there, so I assume that it must be easier than in some other places. Not sure if it's actually easy over there, though. I'm not sure if it's like very, how do you say, like regimented or something, or like there are like endocrine doctors. I'm not sure if it's, or if it's covered by public health insurance, or if not. I don't know how it goes over there, to be honest. But Vietnam, it is very close to Thailand, right? Ah, it's Cambodia and Laos are in the middle, actually. I forgot about that. But yeah, so, but no, I kind of scared to share too much. Okay, no, well, I was going to say no problem. Yes, problem, because I want to know more, but totally understandable, and obviously, yeah, that's fine. It's like your life. But yeah, open invitation for whenever if you ever change your mind, I want to know more. And yeah, see ya. I think it's dumb to copy and paste this here, but maybe it will bring up something. No. So yeah, goodbye. Tomorrow I will probably do the same, and